Hello, lovely people. Welcome into That Sounds Gay. My name is Jer, and I will be your podcast host for a short time. I hope that your New Year's was fantastic. I hope that the year is off to a good start already. So far for me, I have decided to take a short break for this first, 2 weeks of the year with Twitch streaming. As a lot of you know, who listen, I also am a Twitch streamer, and I have been doing this pretty much full time for the last year and a half now. I quit Disneyland back in April, and I've been doing it since then, obviously. Like, that's pretty much when it started full time, but unofficially I've been doing it for about a year and a half, almost 2 years at this point. And it's been really rewarding, really refreshing, and like such a good change of pace from any other type of job that I've had before, and I love it, but I have not had a break, and I have been feeling myself getting like a little bit on the tired side, and before I burn out completely, I'm like, let me take a break. So I'm starting out the new year with getting my mind in a good place, getting caught up on stuff that I have not done in a long time, things I need to get done. So I'm very excited about that. I'm planning on picking up some old hobbies that I used to really enjoy and that used to give me life and make me happy. And I'm picking those back up soon. And I'm very excited about all of the little facets that I'm doing in my personal life. And this is like not necessarily anything that was a part of like a New Year's resolution or anything. It was just, let's just completely start fresh with myself. Let me get to a really good place with myself and a little more stability. And I think that is really going to help. And so far, I'm already feeling the positive benefits of it. This break was so needed and so required. And I hope that the year is going well for you so far. And even though we're not that far in, I hope that things are looking in a good place going forward. And remember that you also control your destiny. So if you want something, freaking go for it. Just do it. Nobody can stop you from doing the things that you want to do except for yourself. You are your only stopgap. And I know that sometimes it feels like we have so many barriers in the way, so many obstacles that we have to hurdle over in order to get to our goal or to the thing that we want. And sometimes that is the case, and sometimes that is true. Sometimes there are financial burdens. Sometimes there are physical burdens of things that are preventing you from getting there. But there is nothing in this world that you cannot achieve if you want it. There's nothing that you can't get. And if you work hard for it, if you believe in it so much, there's nothing that can stop you from getting that. So just remember that as we move into this New Year's, we have this space, this time to sort of reflect and to just march on forward. And as I talked about in the last episode, I'm not a huge, massive fan of New Year's resolutions or things like that. I don't particularly think they're super productive because they're such short-term goals, but I do think that it is healthy to sort of look at the new year as a clean slate, so to speak, that if you had stuff that you were doing, you can kind of wipe that clean and pick that back up in a very productive, healthy sort of way. And just as we move forward, keep that in mind. You can do anything that you set your mind to because you are powerful and you have that. And something that my therapist taught me back when I was still seeing her is that when you put something out into the world, you get it back. And I've really been focusing on that over the last month or so and really applying that to my life, that if I put positive energy out into the world, not being toxically positive, because that's also not healthy. If I put positivity out into the world, and if I put out a positive outlook on what's going to happen. And if I change the way that I think from if I do this, I'm going to fail. If I do this, people aren't going to like it. If I do that, then it's just going to end up going in the same bad direction it always has. Changing that mindset of the way that I think and allowing myself to envision a positive outcome, that is bound to come back to me. It might not be in the timing that I want it to be in, but it will come. And I was recently talking to someone about this, is that when you are in situations where you're being tested, you are maybe being pushed to your limits, you have the opportunity to make a decision to perpetuate that, we're going to call it an obstacle, and to sort of become a victim to that and be upset about it and be angry about it, which you're allowed to be. But if you allow that to control you and you keep feeding back into that, you're going to keep getting it back. That obstacle only gets bigger and bigger and bigger because you keep giving power to it. If you choose to think differently about your circumstance and tackle it in a different way, you become greater than that obstacle. And I think that is very hard to envision when it feels like storms are around you and that you are just feeling hopeless in this storm of despair, anger, frustration, bad coworkers, family members that are making you feel a certain type of way. There's so many storms in our lives that can really make us feel very helpless, but we have so much power and control, and it comes from us. It comes from inside of us. And once you learn to unlock that and trust in that feeling, that gut feeling, that sort of subconscious thing that you don't necessarily want to listen to, once you lean in on that, there's so much in this world that you can unlock. And this is not some like, oh, if you believe in your destiny, you're going to become a millionaire. Like, this is obviously like things within our reach, things that are realistic. We have so much control over getting and changing the circumstances and the situations that surround us. And I think sometimes we can get a little bit caught up in just the overwhelming circumstances that we're in and feeling like, there's nothing that can be done. I can't change this. I have to just kind of accept it, and I'm going to be mad about it, and I'm going to complain about it and grumble about it until it becomes such a massive thing that there's no way to get over it. It's become too big. It's become too large. It's become too unmanageable, and there's no way to fix this. And then you create even more barriers down another path. You take parts of that frustration and you plant those seeds along your path, and you keep getting these weeds that are growing from your old despair because you allowed this thing to get so big and so unmanageable. And I know I'm talking in very like vague circumstances here, because I don't necessarily want to pick on one particular situation. I want this to feel very open, and I want this to feel less targeted, less pointed at one particular thing. So yeah, just a little bit of encouragement as we go forward into this new year. Remember that you have the power here. You have the control over your destiny, over your life. And I think that it's going to be a great year if you let it be. And so moving on into what I wanted to discuss for today, I really wanted to get into some boundary and relationship conversations, because I've been having some of these conversations throughout the week. And the thought remains, and I would like to eloquate this in a way that I have not gotten to throughout the week, is that there are people that come and go from our lives. And we've talked about this on this podcast before, that there are people that come in and out of your life, and that is okay. They are there for a reason. They are there to teach you something. They're there for you to learn something about yourself, for you to learn about something about others, about your boundaries with other people. And oftentimes people come into our lives that really test us. And in the same vein of what we've been talking about before in already today, is that they can sometimes seem like a barrier, an obstacle. And you allow them to have so much control and so much power that it becomes unmanageable. You're taken advantage of in some way by them, and you compromise on yourself, your boundaries. And when you leave that relationship, you take those little seeds from that relationship and you plant them along your journey, and other people that crop up start to look, sound, and feel similarly because you have taken on these things and you've put them in your life. You've surrounded yourself with them. And there have been situations in the past where I found myself finding the exact same type of relationship with different people. I would meet person A and they would remind me exactly of someone that I had known years ago. And I would think to myself, why am I dealing with this again? What am I doing wrong? Why am I having this problem again? And I would handle that relationship the way that I felt it needed to be taken care of. And then I'd meet person B and everything seemed fine. And then they'd turn out to be exactly like person A. And it was because I was taking these little seeds, I was planting them in these new relationships because I was carrying this baggage that I hadn't taken care of. And I think it's very critical for us as people to recognize when someone is giving us the ick feeling. I think that's what the kids are saying, is the ick. And trusting that gut instinct. You know when someone is good for you. You know when someone is going to enrich your life. You know when someone is going to be a detriment to your life. And I've talked about Dead Like Me before. It's one of my absolute favorite shows in the entire world. There's a speed dating episode, and the speed dates are 2 minutes, right? And one of the characters says, man, who would have thought about the concept of meeting a person in 2 minutes? And my favorite character replies to him and says, yeah, it takes even less time than that. And the more that I thought about that as I got older, the more that I listened to that line, the more that I realize you start to realize people are not snowflakes. One person is almost identical in personality to somebody else. We like to believe that we're super unique as humans, that we are our own person, that we're not like anybody else. And that is true on some level, and you are very uniquely you, and you are very specially you. But there are only so many archetypes that exist in the universe, and people start to run similar to others. Not saying they're a carbon copy of somebody else, but there are certainly traits that are similar. And as we get older, we recognize those more and more. We recognize this is a cat person. This is the church lady. This is a airplane talker person, someone that just has no regard for anybody around them. This is a shaman type person, someone who is very wise and someone who's got a lot of advice. This is the hero in the world, someone who always is putting other people before them, is thinking about the greater good, etc. You know, we start to see these archetypes of people that once we recognize them, our gut tells us who somebody is. And there's that, like, don't judge a book by its cover, and that's a fair assessment. But books are in genres are similar. If you look at a book and you know that it's a mystery type book, and you know that mysteries are not your thing, you're not going to pick up that book and read it because it's not your thing. It doesn't matter how well written it is. And I think the don't judge a book by its cover has some merit to it. Don't preemptively make a decision that you aren't going to like something because you haven't liked it in the past. There's some validity in that. But at the same token, if you have to convince yourself that something is good, it probably wasn't good to begin with. And if you know that a certain genre is not good for you and you push yourself to do it anyway, are you enriching your life just for the sake of saying you did it? For saying that you kept an open mind? Are you a better person for doing that? Did you get something from that? Probably not. If it does not enrich you, it's probably not going to. And it's the same with people. We know when someone might not be good for us. And sometimes we don't trust our gut and we push ourselves to form a relationship with someone who doesn't enrich our life, who makes us feel insecure, who makes us feel bad about ourselves, who we know is secretly comparing themselves to our journey because they think that they're better than us and we think that they're better than us too. And so we let them treat us badly. We let them make us feel bad about ourselves, even if it's completely innocuous, even if it's completely subversive, even if the conversation is just a very light dig. We sometimes think that we deserve that type of attitude and behavior from people, that we take those little seeds from the previous relationship that hurt us. We plant that in this one, knowing that it's bad soil that's going to give us a bad outcome. And we're still shocked and surprised that we got the result that we did, you know? It's taking an apple seed and planting it and being completely shocked that it wasn't an orange. It's ludicrous that we do this because we don't trust our gut. But it makes sense why we do it. It's a survival instinct. It's a pattern of behavior that we have to get ourselves out of. But it's this trusting in ourselves and trusting in our subconscious that is trying to get us to think differently, right? I hope I'm making sense with all of this. But when it comes to relationships, I would hope that as adults, most people would be understanding. If you make a decision that is best for you, that you need to take a break from someone, that you need to take a step away from someone, that they will be adjusted enough to understand that, to respect that boundary, and to not push you if you decide to step away from it. And I would also hope that you would give yourself the space to give yourself permission to step away from something if it is not giving you joy, if it is not enriching your passion, if it is not carrying you to the next step of your journey, of your life, in a positive way. And every single relationship we form helps us move on to the next step. They're either to walk with us, to carry us, to be supported. There's different patterns of how people affect our lives. I very much believe that no relationship is insignificant. Everything has a purpose and a meaning to who we are and who we're becoming and who we are going to be. And sometimes those distractions, those people that are trying to pull us off our path, it's more than likely not even intentional. It's not like these people are like, I'm going to sabotage you so that you don't get to be a better person. A lot of times it's subconscious on their end that they feel insecure about themselves, so they feel the need to derail everybody else subconsciously because they need to feel better about the direction that their life is going, because they too have taken the seeds of distraction and planted them in their garden, and are allowing these to become huge obstacles and hurdles for them to not progress and to become better people. And so, again, this whole feeling of trust in yourself, trust your instinct, trust your gut. It's right all the time. Your survival instincts and your survival patterns are sometimes at odds with each other. We know what's best for ourselves, but because we've navigated life a certain type of way, we won't listen to our instinct and we'll trust the pattern. This situation of 1 + 1 = 2 always works for us. So let's not change up that formula, even though our instinct tells us we should be applying 2 + 2 = 4. And yet our pattern is to say 1 + 1 = 2. Let's not change the formula here because we haven't tested it. It's scary to get over that hurdle. And trusting in yourself is so important. So I very much want to encourage all of you as we get to a wrap up here. Again, learn to lean in on yourself. That you know yourself better than anybody else in this world. And trusting in that being will unlock so many things for you and unlock so much potential that you can reach that right now you are not there yet. But you can be and you will be as soon as you learn to lean in on that human being. And wrapping up in this, moving on into the end of this podcast, I just want to say thank you for listening and thank you for tuning in. And I just really, really, really appreciate it. I hope the best for you for the rest of the year. I'm excited for everything that is coming up in this journey. And also, I recently learned that comments and ratings are very important. So if you haven't already, if you could leave a rating, whatever you listen to, Spotify or Apple podcasts, whichever one, if you could leave like a rating or a comment, I would super appreciate that. Apparently it helps a lot with discoverability, which I didn't know about, but I was recently told this and someone was like, you should have your listeners rate your podcast. And I was like, you know what? That's a great idea. So if y'all could do that, it would super help me. And I will be chatting with you very soon. Have a good rest of your week. Goodbye. Hey, thank you so much for watching. If you liked the video, make sure to click that like button. And if you want to see more, hit subscribe. Goodbye.